Now, here in Nigeria, the authorities say the number of people killed by floods ravaging the country in recent weeks has risen to over 500. The country is hit by floods in the rainy season every year, but this year's disaster is the worst in more than a decade, affecting 31 of Nigeria's 36 states, including the capital, Abuja. 1.4 million people have been displaced, and the authorities are warning that states in the central and southern parts of the country are likely to experience more floods in the coming weeks. Well, for all this, let's speak to Arise's Director of News for Abuja and political editor Sumner Sambo, who joins me in the studio. Good to see you, Sumner. The last time we spoke, we were talking about 300 people. Now it's 500. It's pretty alarming, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very alarming. And the deaths will keep on occurring until something is done. There's an emergency plan approval by the Federal Executive Council, which is the federal cabinet of the country, and there's an emergency format of how to prevent the death rates from increasing right now. But from what we have seen in place, it's not going to be so much efficient. So people are living along those routes where we're having this flooding just have to look for ways to go onto the upland areas because it's going to be pretty difficult for the government to want to do so much. But the most important thing is that after this crisis, there needs to be a revisiting of the flood control plan for the country. The Nigerian government had, after 2012, when we had a major crisis like this, drawn up a plan. It also held a meeting sometime in 2013 with Cameroon on the perennial issue of releasing excess water from the Lagdo Dam in that northern part of the country in Cameroon. But I mean, it's not been so efficient. But this time around, just sometime in September, we had seen the three agencies related in this instance, the National Emergency Management Agency, the Nigeria Meteorological Agency, and then the Nigeria Hydrographical Services Agency, all meeting to alert people. But some of the state governors, I mean, didn't really take this early warning system, serious, and see where we are at the moment.
Well, absolutely. And of course, these are mostly poor people that are affected. And presumably many have been sort of reluctant to leave their farms, for example, even if they'd been warned about the risk of flooding, simply because that is their livelihood.
Yes. Actually, Charles, it's been a terribly difficult situation for these people who are being affected by, normal economic situations across the country. So some people had to sit and be watching as the floods, kept rising. Some had to be, very, very awful. Some people had to be climbing on their roof, just
terrible,
praying that the next day will be better. The waters will keep on receding. But of course, the waters have not been receding. They've been increasing, except for the past 2 days where we've had some sort of good news from the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency saying that, look, it looks like the water is receding a bit, but even then, you can see that the confluence states, for example, Kogi, where you have the rivers Benue and River Niger all meeting, seems to have shut down the entire country in terms of movement from the northern part to the southern part of the country, and movement of goods, including petroleum products, from the southern part of the country to the northern part. And if you look at the nation's capital, Abuja, here, there's lots of artificial fuel scarcity because of this. And then, of course, if you look at how this is going to affect the food shortage later on, you discover that lots of food is not being moved to the southern part of the country. And this is with what we've seen farmers facing, including some billionaire farmers like Olam, for example, which has a very huge rice farm in Nasarawa State within the north central of the country. I mean, they've had a lot of losses, including small holder farmers who borrowed monies from Nigeria Central Bank, the Anchor Borrowers Program. We don't know how they are going to pay back all of this. So it's a huge loss, and the worst of it all is that we're losing lots of citizens. So something has to be done about this, and the government has some blame, actually, because if you look at the Dasin Hausa Dam, which was meant to have been a buffer dam, if it had been created since 1982, it would have been able to receive some of this excess waters from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon and help out. But that project hasn't been completed up till now. There's also the other one, Kashimbila Dam in Taraba State. While the Dasin Hausa Dam is supposed to be, it's in Adamawa State. The Kashimbila Dam is almost completed now. It's in Taraba State, but these dams haven't been completed. And there's the Zungeru, which we have at the moment, to also serve as a buffer alongside the Jeba. The dam that we have in Jeba at the moment, and then of course the Kainji Dam. So it's been a difficult situation in terms of financing this dam completion, and most times when it goes through the budgeting system at the National Assembly, some people don't understand why there's a need to complete these dams until we get ourselves into these sort of problems. So the government needs to quickly see how it can raise some sort of funding to complete that. They are working with the Chinese to conclude that of the Zungeru
and make that
dam,
a priority.
And we are beginning to see some signs of progress there. But are people still going to be suffering? Yes, they will. Can something be done right now? Yes. But are state governors working with the federal government to reduce this? That's where the problem lies, Charles.
Right.
Most of the state governments are not really enlightening their citizens on the need to stay away from the flood areas.
Tragic story. Sumner, thank you very much indeed. Sumner Sambo is Arise's Director of News for Abuja.